Beautiful. We are back, and it's time for us to get down to the newspaper review. And allow me to just thank the people who were tuned in and, in fact, even send their feedback to let us know that indeed the message blessed them. Someone said, "Amen. May God restore to us all that we have lost." And indeed, I believe this was a message for somebody this day. God will restore everything that the locusts, the cankerworms, the palmerworms have eaten from your life. Keep walking in obedience and you will see the salvation of the Lord. But anyway, let's come down to the newspaper review this morning, and I see the top story here is Adani deals, court demands proof of termination. So a judge has directed the government to table evidence on the revocation of two multi-billion shilling deals involving controversial Indian conglomerate Adani Group. So President William Ruto ordered the cancellation last week following a bribery indictment by US authorities. And I see 996 billion shillings is the Ministry of Energy had contracted Adani Energy Solutions to build and operate major transmission lines and substation at a cost of 96.68 billion for a lease period of 30 years. And this is a story that has been covered on page 4. And indeed, what we need is proof, because we could be thinking it was terminated, but then where is the proof? So Indian Farm has bagged power lines contract with a JKIA tender lined up. So definitely there is proof that is needed so that people are not just swayed by the statements. And moving on, I see on the top page here, Senators unite to reject bill seeking to bar MPs from Harambes. This is a story covered on the back page, and looking down to it, I see Senator Aaron Cheruiyot on the same saying nobody is stopping fundraisers. They will be allowed. How they are conducted is the question at hand. This is a story covered on the back page, and bill was brought to House following the Gen Z-led protest in June and also July. And I see that senators here are saying if enacted as is, the law will stifle Harambes and therefore disadvantage the poor. That's a story on the back page. Let's continue. I see page 3, almost 5 years of trial. Joyce Teresia Akinyi Ochieng has been found guilty of drug trafficking. So drug trafficker here, Joyce Akinyi, finally runs out of luck. Justice right there is being served. And I also see end of Azimio still on the top page here. Azimio la Umoja One Kenya 2022 presidential running mate Martha Karua will today lead her NARC Kenya party's National Delegates Convention NDC to formally withdraw from the opposition coalition, signaling the impending collapse of the outfit as more affiliate parties plot exit. So ODM leader Raila Odinga flew the coalition's flag with Miss Karua as his running mate in the 2022 polls, while former President Uhuru Kenyatta, the Jubilee Party leader, serves as its council chair. So Wiper leader Kalonzo Musyoka, who was the Azimio Prime Minister designate, and his Democratic Action Party of Kenya DAP-K counterpart Eugene Wamalwa have also hinted at ditching the coalition, saying they were making wide consultations before the move. That's a story on page 7. Almost like a story is of the shepherd being striped, and so the sheep are scattered all over, even as Raila Odinga began this and said that he wants no more of politics so that he can, of course, focus on the AU chair position. But we continue, and on the top page still, probe former PSs over high power costs, EACC tolls. That's a story on page 5. And Tutukin County in legal battle over 4,720 acre land in the Masai Mara. This is a story on page 2. Moving on, page 3, of course, is a story that we did mention of the drug trafficker Joyce Akinyi, who has been brought to justice. And page 4, show proof of Adani deal's cancellation call, court tells state. I see petitioners say there's no evidence JKIA Ketraco contracts had been terminated. It's just words, but there is no proof. And I would love to go down into it more. I see Adani Group through lawyer Ezra Makori asked to be excused from the proceedings, citing the cancellation of the JKIA deal. And I see this is during the court session, and I see on behalf of proponents, we would wish to be excused from the proceedings because the deals have been cancelled, Mr. Makori submitted. And on the deal of the construction of energy transmission lines, the government said although they had filed an objection to the case being heard before the High Court, they needed time to report on the steps taken following the president's directive. Mr. Kalonzo Musyoka saying we will treat the statement as strange until there is evidence to support the same, especially in the mouths of even other people, and in fact even the people of this country, the citizens. We may hear, but then it is still being treated as strange until we have seen the evidence. Page 5, XPS's face probe over power deal. So former Vision 2030 boss to also face probe over the wind power agreement. That's the story on page 5. And moving on, just coming down to the DN2 this morning, I see something interesting here. Actually, in fact, before we go to the DN2, let's just quickly look at the county news first. MPs call for forensic audit of water farms, 2 billion shilling losses. Interesting here, report reveals company likely to keep depending on county creditors. And still on the county news, I see MCAs defy Ruto and oust the deputy speaker. And moving on now, I see still on the county news, court declines DPP request to terminate forgery charges. And that is a story that is covered on page 26. And in Nakuru, we see autopsy reveals athlete's daughter killed a year before discovery. Very, very sad. And look at that story that is on page 26. The DN2, as I mentioned, we are seeing the rise of design and build contracts. So Concept ensures clients get only the contractors that have a clear understanding of the project scope and also requirements. And this is 28 and 29 covering a look at why design and build contracts are quickly becoming popular. And look at that story that is on page 28 and 29. And in fact, even when you go to town, I think you will actually see such things happening. People are selling such pictures and all, and also ushering people to get these contracts. And also this is actually becoming very popular nowadays. And for a long time in Kenya, project owners have sourced for construction services from different professionals under what is popularly known as design bid build contracts to bring their projects into fruition. Look at that story on page 29. And coming down to the sports page, I see here that Nairobi City Thunder squad packs a punch, ready to strike on home court. So host side unbeaten in the domestic league all season is brimming with well-traveled Kenya international players and South Sudanese signings. And still on the sports page, Police FC search for their 8th coach in 3 years. And that's it for the Daily Nation. And going down to the Standard, the top story here is fresh split hits review of varsity funding model. So a team reviewing the controversial new university funding formula is riding a fresh storm with revelations that student representatives are demanding that the controversial 5 bands that determine the level of state support for learners be collapsed to only 3, something university administrators and scholars say would lead to financial distress for the institutions. This is a story covered on page 4, and 129 being the number of members of the National Working Committee to review the new university funding models set up by President William Ruto following complaints by students and members of the public. Still on the top page here, a repeat of the story by Adani, show proof of cancelled contract, state told. This is covered on page 8. I also see page 5, a story also on the Daily Nation, Akamba rejoins Gemma, and you can look at that in more details. And still on the top page, medics call work boycott after intern doctor's death. So Doctors Union here is telling us declares national strike from Saturday and demands immediate government action on long-standing grievances after Francis Gashimo, an intern doctor in Thika, died by suicide. Very unfortunate, the pressures of work. And I also see page 4, no learning in Moi Varsity as dons press on with strike. And coming down to the pullout today, we can maybe look at what is being covered and I see here that on the business page, Page 13 here, I see mothers cry for justice, call for ethical reporting. So we see women recall how recklessly they received the tragic news of the death of their daughters. MCA, whose daughter was killed last month, wants such cases given special attention. This is a story on page 13. More on this page 12, I see Gachanja seeks relief from court for his never-ending cases. So former Lands Commissioner says he's suffering under weight of perpetual litigation. In some cases, he states he is a party simply by the office he held 20 years ago. That's a story covered on the Standard. And we look at the pullout today, shipping and logistics, talking about how ocean alliances have shaped the shipping industry. That's a story covered in the pullout today. And moving on to the sports, Man City are fragile, frail and weak. English Premier League heavyweights Manchester City's defensive woes continue. Man City's next Champions League game is away to Juventus on December the 11th. And moving on, I see Lelgat. I took injury in my stride. So the 26-year-old athlete battled a knee injury for 2 years and underwent surgery in February this year. He made a strong statement in Lille, where he placed second in a personal best. And that's a story covered on the sports page of the business of the Standard today. Now coming to the Business Daily this morning, top story here, Safaricom opens new M-Pesa fund after ownership wrangle. So CMA approves Safaricom's new unit trust. Management fights push telco away from Mali Money Market Fund. A story covered on the top page here and continued on page 2. And page 2 here also covers something else, why Kenyan mineral dealers are stuck with 42,000 tons in stock. And still here, I see a very, very interesting story. MPs reject bid to cut counties' fund on missed targets. So Parliament has thwarted a bid to force counties to forego part of their equitable share in light of missed revenue targets in the financial year ending June 2025. And I also see another story here. Kenya's public debt rises to 2%. To 2% to 229 billion shillings. And still on the top page, I see Kakuzi issues profit warning on Middle East tensions. Back page here, the easing of Kenya's formal employees' tax burden, long overdue. A balanced approach through tax-based expansion is crucial to foster equitable contributions and sustainable growth. We actually did something on taxes this very week on Monday, and you can look at that story on page 24. And the last word today is the politician attempts to remedy the evil by increasing the everything that caused the evil in the first place. This is a legal plunder, very quite interesting. So this is a Frederick Bastiat and quite a timely word at such a time as this. But that's it for the newspaper review this morning, and I hope that you've gotten informed. Now you can definitely grab a copy of your favorite and definitely tune in to Hope FM. At the top of every hour, we have news updates for you. At Hope TV, 7 p.m., we have Dira, and at 9 p.m., we have News Watch. So you can also keep updated. On whatever it is that we do here. And even as the news keep coming in, we will be updating you as well. So thank you for remaining all the way to the end of the newspaper review. Let's now have a look at the video of the day.